1. We are live. Just a second. Okay, we are live finally. Hello everyone. I hope you can see me as well as Nikhil.
See if we get a reply.
Yep. So as soon as there is a first reply, we'll start. Hello Ali. Yep, like always, do let us know from where you are, what time is it. Hello Sagun, hello Aditya, hello Prashant. Just to confirm,
Yeah, Aditya is from my team.
double hello. Hi Sumit. Hi Rakesh. Hi Maria. Yeah, you can hear us. Can you see us? Can you see us? See me in a circle and Nikhil in a rectangle. I don't know why I like circles, but fine. Hello Shantosh, Mohammad, Pooja. Good to have you on the stream. Yes, camera is clear. Okay, then we can start. It's 2:30 exact. Hi, Doug Wander. Am I pronouncing your name correct? From South Africa. Awesome. So, yep. Today is a special episode number 4 of Build with Hussain. And I am joined by Nikhil Kothari, founder of the Commit company. He has been like a Frappe community member since long. I first interacted with him on Twitter like a while back, and then I met him at the conference, and we had similar interest, and then we worked together on doppio, and yep, I have been connected with him since then, and I asked him whether he wants to do a stream on React because we had some public demand, and he was like, yes, let's do it, and here we are. Yeah, Nikhil, introduce yourself. Want to say a few words here?
I lead a team of really great devs at the Commit company. We actually build um, tooling around Frappe, Frappe, ERP Next, essentially any Frappe app. Um, so one of the products that we are going to launch soon is Raven, which is a Slack alternative, but it's open source, it's free. So I can share that with you guys. So this is Raven. It's built using React and Frappe, and it can be installed on any Frappe site. So when we launch it, it will be available on Frappe Cloud. What you see now is a channel called Bugs. So yeah, there are lots of bugs. We're still testing and we're cleaning up. A lot of performance cleanup. So Janvi and Aditya, they are the ones that are building this out. This is a part of the Frappe incubator program. And we are also working on a product called Commit, which is essentially developer tooling for Frappe. Frappe itself is a no-code platform, but there's not a lot of developer tooling or extra tooling out there that makes developers lives easier. Could be used by anyone. Could be used by people who are just working on Frappe, or could be used by people who are customizing ERP Next. Stuff like being able to visualize your database, being able to look at all the APIs that are out there in your project, and being able to export it to Postman. So there are lots of things that we have
Cool
planned.
stuff coming up. Yep.
Yeah, so we're working on that, and yeah, I guess that's pretty much about me. We've we've essentially built a few libraries that allow us to build with Frappe and React very, very quickly. We treat the Frappe interface. I mean, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Frappe. I would hope everyone is, right? The Frappe interface, with the list views, report views, we treat it like an admin panel, and then our user-facing products, we build it on React. And this particular library, the Frappe React SDK, is basically allows us to build React applications very quickly because it encapsulates all of the logic in a particular hook. So in most cases, you're just writing one line of code to perform any operation, whether that's updating a document, whether it's reading a list of documents, etc. So we have a new documentation site coming up. It's still a work in progress, but it is coming up, and hopefully, it's ready by the end of the week. Whereas the code is well documented inside. So if you use your code editor, I'll show it, while we are coding today. It's well documented inside the code base, and so inside your editor, you're gonna get all the documentation. So I guess that's it.
Awesome,
Anything
awesome.
else?
Like, yeah, people, like, when you have questions during the stream, just ask them. Like, we'll try to answer. I'm always like, I I've repeated even if times I look at the chat, so always looking for your thoughts and questions. And awesome. So Frappe React SDK doc site is like the announcement of the day because it's like new and upcoming and like, yeah. So it's going to be fun. And let's start, Nikhil, if you're ready.
Yeah.
Let's
So
build.
today we are going to build a simple expense recorder. Essentially, you will be able to open the application, log in, right? Add expenses, right? Whether that's a debit expense or a credit expense, you'll be able to add expenses. But while we are doing that, we'll actually cover a lot of topics, right? So basic, how we create doc types and then generate TypeScript type definitions automatically using a tool called Frappe types that we have written, and then performing simple CRUD operations on documents, making calls to custom APIs, file uploads, search, real-time events using Socket. So basically everything that the Frappe React SDK does, we'll be covering today. Prerequisites would be that you guys know basics of React and basics of Frappe, and that's pretty much it. So I guess we can get started. I've already listed down a bunch of steps. After the stream is done, this particular repository is going to be available, and we'll update it on social media as well as in the description or in the comments below.
Cool. So Nikhil, we have a question. If you are looking at the chat, can you share some background on why you went with React versus Angular or
Uh,
Vue.js? Which Frappe
okay,
uses?
so well, Vue.js Frappe doesn't really use it the way that Frappe. I mean, the team at Frappe uses Vue.js, but they also make it in a single page application and then call those APIs in Frappe. So they also treat it as a backend and front end, separate. Um, Now, why did I use React? Well, because before I was introduced to Frappe, I was working on my startup called Opportune. I was a co-founder, and over there we were using React with Firebase. So that's essentially why I learned React. The reason why I chose React was because when I was looking for a web development framework to learn from, a free course was available on freecodecamp.org, and that free course was only for React. It wasn't for Angular or Vue. So I mean, that's that's essentially just why I chose React. Really, there's no good reason.
Cool. So it's by chance you got into React and then now you are
Yeah,
deep down.
yeah. I don't really have any preference in terms of tools. It's just that what you should just stick to it in most cases, because you're gonna build experience on a particular tooling.
Yeah, yeah. And then you get faster
So
and faster efficient with the
yeah,
existing tooling and you spend less time on setup than on shipping.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I have now is I have a bench already set up. All I've done is bench init expense bench, and I'm in that directory right now, right? Hope you guys can, view my terminal, because I'm going to be entering in a bunch of commands right now and setting up my entire bench. So first things first, we have, we need to enable developer mode. So I'll just set developer mode as 1. That's done. And then we create a new app called expense tracker. Pretty simple stuff, nothing fancy. Expense tracker, an app to track expenses. I am not going to create GitHub workflow actions for this because we are not going to be writing any unit tests. But if you are, I would recommend it. We do it for all our production apps. Anyway, so new app done. Now we need to get a bunch of apps, a selection of apps. So first thing, we'll go to doppio. Doppio is, by the way that I was able to figure out how to use React with Frappe, right? Because before that, I was actually using jQuery and writing code and and making those interfaces within the desk interface of Frappe. So when I looked at doppio, I looked at how they were implementing it for Vue.js, and that's how I figured how we can make it for React. So now doppio supports both React and Vue.js along with TypeScript. So essentially, when you're setting up a React app, you have multiple options with Frappe. One is that you can host your React app somewhere else. You can host it on Firebase. You can host it on, maybe you build it using Next.js and host it on Vercel or something. In all those cases, Frappe React SDK and the mechanics of it all will be the same, right? It's just that you have to manage cookies because the domains will be separate, right? So, and Frappe uses cookies for authentication. So it's important that either you use OAuth, especially if you're building a mobile app using, let's say, Capacitor or anything else, you need to use OAuth, or else you need to have those apps being served, your backend, your Frappe backend server, as well as your React app being served from the same domain. If you do not do that, then those cookies will never be set and you won't be able to authenticate a user. Alternative to cookie, as I said, OAuth or authorization tokens. So anyway, the other option is that you host your React app with your Frappe app, right? So let's say your Frappe app is on mysite.com. Your React app or your Vue.js app could be a single page application that can be hosted on mysite.com/expenses, for example, right? So that's essentially what we are going to do with doppio. It is the recommended way. I would recommend it. Obviously, you do not get Next.js or anything with that. So, it's mostly going to be client-side code. It's a single page application. So if that suits your requirements, which should, go ahead with it. So I'm going to first get the doppio app. Doppio is, as you can see, it's written by Hussain himself. So
Yep,
and
it
then
was
I'm just going to,
a weekend project, and then it turned out to be like useful.
yeah, it is useful. And then we are going to get another app called Frappe Types. Now, Frappe Types is essentially, the way that we build apps with React, we always use TypeScript. So the reason why we do that is because we do not get, errors. Our coding is faster because the code editor is able to suggest stuff. And especially when you're collaborating with multiple people, you might not know the, unintended side effects of a particular variable. With TypeScript, those types are well defined. I mean, there are bad ways of using TypeScript. You can just write any and unknown everywhere. But if you're not doing that, then I would recommend using TypeScript, especially since the tooling is now much better. So to use the Frappe TypeScript type generator, now what this does is that, let's say if you create a doctype, right? We already know that when you create a doctype, it creates a JSON file. And then with the JSON file, it also creates those Python and JavaScript files, right? So what this app does is that it will also generate a TypeScript type definition file. So let's say if you have got 5 fields in your doc type, those 5 fields are going to be enumerated in your interface. And so you do not have to, manually type in type definitions for all your documents. So I'll show how it works, but first we get this app.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool.
And
You will
great.
know it when you see it. Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay. So now if I look at my apps directory, I have doppio, I have expense tracker, I obviously have Frappe and have Frappe types, right? Now we need to create a new site because without a site, we can't do anything. So we create a new site.
So just a side note, like doppio is just for local development. So once the setup is done,
Yeah.
you don't have to install doppio even in the site. So it's like a CLI tool
Yeah.
that you install, and the bench command is available. And then
Yeah.
like once you have set up, then it's like, okay, you can
So
remove
on
it, kind of. Yeah.
production, you are only going to need your own app. You won't need Frappe types or doppio.
Yeah.
You don't need to install doppio on the site. You do need to install Frappe types on your site because it will generate type definition files based on your site. I'm going to set this up. Great. So all we have done now is set up a new site, and I'm going to set it as my default site because then otherwise it will just complain, and then I'll have to specify the site every time I enter in a command, which is just nuts. So I'm going to say bench install app expense.test. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Expense tracker. Yeah. I'll see the messages. Password-based authentication relies on cookies and session data to maintain authentication and subsequent requests. Okay. So, Hussain, do you want to take this
Yeah,
up or
sure.
do I?
So I recently, what I did was like I have a template called doppio frappe UI template, I guess. So it also has authentication and it uses cookies. So like it assumes the app is like the single page application is inside the app and it will be served directly by the Frappe server. So like check that out. Basically, if you use doppio to set up Frappe UI, you will now by default get that template along with authentication enabled. At least the view part. Maybe we can do the same thing in React. So have an idea we'll discuss with Nikhil. So we don't have a template yet for React. Maybe we should like after today's call I will have like better idea to set up. Yeah.
Yeah. So Frappe React SDK supports both kinds of authentication. You can authenticate using email and password, and then it will handle the cookies and session itself. Or you can pass it in a token, right? So let's say you logged in with Google and then you have a token. You can pass that token to the SDK and it will authenticate requests using that. So in my previous startup, what we did when we migrated from Firebase to Frappe, we essentially could not migrate the Firebase authentication part, and Firebase used to give us a token, right, when you authenticate a user. So we used to take that token, pass it to the Frappe React SDK, and then that authenticated against the server. So we had to write some authentication logic on the server, but that's actually pretty simple. So yeah, Frappe React SDK supports both.
Awesome.
Okay, so we have this setup now. So all I've done is essentially I've set the site to default. I started my bench. I installed the expense tracker app. I also installed Frappe types, and I logged into Frappe and set up the site over here, right? So now since all of that is done, we can set up the React app. So all we have to do is bench add SPA. So this is what Doppio offers, right? Just a single line that you need to add in, and it will ask you for a bunch of stuff. So dashboard name is essentially where is your single page application, whether it's Vue.js or React, where is that application going to be hosted on which path, right? So in our case, I'm going to say, that it's expenses. So it's like mysite.com/expenses. App name, it's the name of the Frappe app, expense tracker. Which framework do you want to use? We will type in React. We want to configure TypeScript, and then it will do a bunch of stuff. So what is Doppio doing? If you're wondering, first, it uses Vite. I don't know how many of you are aware of Vite.dev. So it sets up a single page application using Vite and React. And then what it does is that it sets up a few lines of code in your package.json, so that when you run, yarn build or npm build, when you build the actual React app, it copies those output files to your Frappe app. And then the Frappe app is actually just serving a single page application using the standard www method that it has, right? So you have that folder for www, you can add any page to it, and it serves that file. That's essentially what Doppio is doing. And it adds a redirect as well. So Doppio also adds a line of code in your hooks.py for your app that essentially says that, hey, if someone goes to /expenses, redirect them to the single page application.
Yeah,
So
it's actually pretty simple, but
yeah,
like because it's like a series of steps, so you don't miss. It's like
yeah,
better to use Doppio, and then like it's
yeah.
magically
It's
doing the
like
steps.
you have to like type in stuff in like 10 files, right? It's the same boilerplate, so it's just better to do it this way.
Yep.
Um, okay, so now we have this, right? Now what we can do is we have this Frappe server that's already running. That's fine. Uh, we can now, go to our React app. So if you go to apps, expense tracker, right, you will see that there's a folder called expenses, right? So what we'll do is that I'll go here and I'll open this in Visual Studio Code. So normally when you create a new Frappe app, you would get that, app directory over here, which has your, hooks.py and everything. But when I ran, bench add spa in Doppio, right, it also created this React app. So this folder should be very familiar if you know React. It's a standard, React app. So it's living inside your app. And you'll see that these are all the files that have been created, right? So when you're doing your development, you're going to be running two servers. You're going to be running your Frappe server as normal, but you're also going to be running your React server, right? Your React app server. So the way that you do is just yarn dev inside your app, inside your expense tracker, right? Just run yarn dev and it'll say that it's running on 8080. So if I go to localhost 8080, yep, it's working, right? So this is like, boilerplate code that they always generate. Now, the thing about your local development environment is that, when you're serving content, you're serving it from port number 8009. When you are serving your React site and your React site is actually requesting content from your Frappe server, that's running on port number 8080 or something else, right? So they're essentially running on two different servers, or two different ports. The problem with that is that first, it's going to create a cross-origin request, right? Now, since both of them are running on localhost, it will not throw a CORS error. But for your local dev environment, only your local dev environment, by the way, we need to allow CORS, right? So I'm going to go to sites and common site config, and I'm going to just, disable, or essentially enable cross-origin requests from everywhere. So allow CORS is star. Okay. the other thing is that since your React app is not being served by Frappe, right? Because remember, that can only happen on production. When your React app is built, those files are generated, then those files are transferred to your www directory, and then you can access, the CSRF token. But you will not get a CSRF token when you are running your, React app on a separate server. So if I'll show where it would come up. If you go over here, yeah, or maybe I just expand it and blow it up so that you can see it. So you see this window.csrf token. It says frappe.session.csrf token. So it's not an actual CSRF token, and so that will also throw errors when you're trying to authenticate, etc. Because it will be like, hey, you're making, you're bypassing restrictions. So for your dev environment and only your dev environment, you will also add in ignore CSRF as
Yep.
one, right? And
So
then control
basically, in
O.
production, the index.html will be rendered with the CSRF token, so you don't need to do this in your
Yeah,
igno-
yeah.
production site.
In fact, do not do this on production, right? That would be a huge security issue. So do not. Anyway, uh, wait. So now we have pretty much, yeah, we have pretty much done everything except for setting up Frappe types. So you see how we installed Frappe types, but we never really used it. So after you install Frappe types, you will see that there is a doctype, a single doctype called type generation settings. Okay, so cool. So what we need to do is we need to specify the app name. So in this case, our app name is expense tracker, and the path. So path would be expenses/src. Now I'll tell you what this does. Essentially, you can be working on 3 different Frappe apps simultaneously, right? And you're going to be installing Frappe types only once. So what this allows you to do is that it allows you to specify, hey, I'm working on expense tracker. I'm working on, let's say, another app, and I want those type generation files to be stored at this path, right? I'll explain what this does, but for now, this is what you need to do. So now we have, essentially set up our entire server, um, and we pretty much are done. I think, yeah, I'm not missing anything. Cool. So, any questions so far?
No, not yet. So since we have paused, like I
Um,
just wanted to uh, say one thing. So basically, what Nikhil is using is like a single site setup, which serves on localhost. We also have like multi-tenant setup where you don't do bench use and then you have to specify the site. In that case, you don't require course because then, like you can watch the first episode. I have done it like without the course, but ignore CSRF is required in any case. So like
yeah,
if you
you
want
don't
to
really
watch
need
that setup,
you don't need
yep.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to disable cores right now. uh,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is not required because both of them will be, using local host.
Yep.
So the cookies will be set. Uh, the only thing that I would, suggest, the only reason why I would suggest is someone might be trying to build it, using, a mobile app or something, right? So in that case, you would have to do it. So if you're like building, you're using React, but in a mobile app, then you have to, allow cores and, you know, yeah.
Yeah, Nilesh asks how to host this app in Frappe Cloud with React. So stay tuned. After we are done with the app, we'll deploy it to Frappe Cloud. Right, Nikhil?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's the same thing. You don't have to do anything. There are no development steps as such,
Yep.
right? Because everything was done by doppio.
So
So
you
we don't
just
really
need
need to
to
do
deploy
anything.
it just like a normal app.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to commit these files for now. So, feed, paste, wrap app, setup. Oh, okay. There's a problem. Git config user name.
Looks like it's a fresh setup.
Yeah, this is a new laptop, so
Cool.
cool. Okay. So now that is done. What we need to do next is we need to install a bunch of libraries. Now, here's the thing. When we are installing these libraries, we want to install these React packages, right? So, React router, React form, Chakra UI, stuff like that. You might be using Material or Tailwind or whatever, but you need to do that, inside your React app. So what happens a lot of many times is that we have this package.json which is at the main Frappe app level, and so we just go to our terminal, we go to app slash, let's say, yeah, our app name, and then we run yarn install or whatever, yarn add or whatever. Do not do that, right? Do that inside your React app. In our case, our React app is expenses, so we are going to go one level deep. So you'll see this is our React app, right? And we'll install packages over here. So yarn add React router DOM. So this is what we'll use for routing. Yarn. Actually, I'm going to just copy a bunch of commands, right? Because that'll just take time. So Chakra UI is what we'll be using for our front end. Let that happen. Frappe React SDK was already installed by Doppio. We don't need to do anything. TypeScript, etc., was already installed by Doppio. We don't need to do anything. Yarn add React hook form. Yes, we'll add that.
So these
Let
are like
happen
optional
first.
packages that like Nikhil uses to set up and
Yeah,
use. You can use whatever packages you want. For routing, there is like, I think there is React router as well. The one used
yeah,
in
yeah.
Remix, that is like cool too if you are using that. Like use whatever you use. It's basically your React
So
app, right?
we are using React router, but yeah, like let's say if you were using Material UI, just install Material UI.
Yep.
Okay, React date picker, React hook form. I think that's like the bare minimum that we need to do. Yeah. Okay, now let's get into our React app. So we have this expenses. We need to set up a few environment variables, right? So, but first we need to clean up a lot of stuff. Now, what happens is that, Wheat, adds their logo and stuff everywhere. So I'm just going to delete all of these. I'm going to delete these CSS files as well. We don't need those. App.tsx, we remove this. There's a lot of boilerplate over here. We remove all of this. We remove this. So a bunch of stuff gone. Cool.
Yep. Basically, we are
Right.
starting
And
from
then in
scratch. Yeah.
main.tsx, yeah. And then in main.tsx, I need to remove index.css, and I need to install Chakra UI. So if I go to get started and then I choose Wheat, in here, I just need to add a Chakra provider.
Nikhil, can you like
Yeah.
zoom in a little in VS Code? Because like the quality
Okay.
is low, and yep, if you zoom in it can, yeah,
Cool.
better.
So I've set up my Chakra provider in main.tsx. Now I'll go to app.tsx and I'll set up a bunch of stuff. So first thing, I'm going to set up a browser router. So this is essentially what we need from React Router DOM. There are multiple ways to actually route in React. You can also do use hooks, etc. But for now, I'm just going to keep it simple. Okay. Now your Frappe provider, right? It actually requires a few variables, right? Now I'm going to cover a few edge cases. Now in our case, uh, you know, our React app and our main app, our Frappe server is running on localhost. So, but they're running on separate ports. So what Doppio has done is that it has actually added these proxy options. I'm going to add one more private over here. Sorry. Yeah. So what it does is that in your dev environment, it will actually route requests from port number 8080 to port number, whatever your web server port is, where your Frappe server is running. So that's done. Uh, and sometimes what might happen is that you're just working on the React app and your Frappe server is hosted on a URL. So, Frappe React SDK does provide options for those. You can actually read about it in authentication, or actually over here in initializing the library. You can set a URL. You can also pass in, your authentication tokens, etc. We don't need anything right now, right? Except for socket. So what we are going to do is we are going to set up a .env.local, right? And we are going to say read socket port equals to, now I'm actually running on what? I'm running on 8009. So my socket port is going to be on 9009, right? And another thing that we need is a wheat base path, which is going to be slash expenses. Thank you, Copilot. But not in our local environment. Not in a local environment, but in a production environment. And I'll get to that in a bit. Okay. So in production environment, we do not need a socket port. We just need a base path in our production environment. Now, why? Because you see, when the React app is rendered on production, it will be on slash expenses. And when React router tries to route, to different pages, it wouldn't know the base path. So we actually need to pass in the base name to it, and we can say import dot meta dot env dot, I think it's wheat base. I don't know what was it. Wheat base path. Yeah. And then in Frappe provider, we are going to say socket port, and we are again going to say import dot meta dot env dot wheat.
So yeah, we had a request for like
Socket
getting socket
port.
working. So this is like what you do to get socket working in React application, and it's like all
Yeah.
production
So
code.
we just,
Yep.
yeah, we added support today for Socket IO and Frappe React SDK, but we were using Socket, regardless earlier as well, and it was similar. So anyway, now we have set up Frappe provider and browser router, and now what we need to do is we need to set routes, right? And then we can do stuff like this. So I'm going to import routes. I'm going to import route. Okay. Okay. And so for now, I'm going to say login. Okay, cool. So if I go to my React app and I go to slash login, you see it says login, right? There's no styling and stuff, so we need to do that, but at least it's working. So I guess what we'll do is that we'll start building the login page first, right? And then figure it out one by one. So I'm going to create a new folder called pages. I just want to be sure that I'm not taking up too much time, or I can, speed things up or slow things down.
Yep.
Um,
Whatever you like. Maybe I
in
would recommend like,
V14,
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. I have
uh,
replied to that question, I
in
guess.
V14, I didn't get the type generator setting. So what you need to do, okay, you need to install the app. Okay. And then I guess you're using Axios with credentials true for authentication and subsequent requests. Am I right? Yeah. So yes, I am doing with credentials true in Axios, because that's what Frappe.js SDK is doing, which is again a library that we wrote. So Frappe.js SDK does that, and then Frappe React SDK is just a wrapper around it. If you are using fetch directly, then you need to pass the cookies yourself. I think in fetch there is an option to pass the cookies. At the end of the day, the Frappe server just needs the cookies. That's it.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Hussein, you were saying?
No, no, I was saying if we can first build CRUD and then go to authentication, maybe, or
Okay. Okay, yeah. I
your
think
call,
that would
your call.
be
I
that
was
would be
like
actually
just a
better.
suggestion. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is that I'll first make CRUD, because one thing that you have to know, for all our viewers, is when you're logged into the local host on Frappe, you're also logged into local host over here because the cookies are shared.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'll first make a simple page, and then let's maybe, set up, if we get time. If we do not get time, then what I'll do is that I'll set it up over here and I'll share the code on GitHub so you can see how authentication was implemented. So,
Cool.
okay, so I guess what we'll do is I'll create a new page, and the page that I'll create will be known as, not dashboard, maybe, I have two pages, so maybe, just expenses.tsx, right? And then, okay, I'm going to export this. Yeah, TypeScript version 5 is very strict, by the way. So it's like, hey, you're not using this. That's an error.
So it recently came out, right?
So
Or was it like?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
No. TypeScript 4 was very lenient. I guess you can, configure that in tsconfig. So I'm going to say I want expenses, and then, yeah, okay, cool. Expenses is done. So I have this. Great. So if I go to, yeah, it says E, right? Now what we are going to do is we are going to build a very, very simple dashboard as well as a list view. We first get to the list view and the CRUD operations, right? So I need to go into components, and I'm not going to implement multiple pages for these. I'm just going to implement tabs because that's the easy part. And I'm going to just copy, and I go to expenses and I paste. And I guess I don't know how to
The
import
bulb. I think
all.
the bulb button will. Yeah. I think. Okay, import all is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Add all missing imports. Okay. See? Cool. The good thing about Chakra UI is that you do not have to style a lot. It's really awesome. So expense list and then maybe a dashboard. Right? We'll get to the dashboard later. For now, this is what we have. And then I remove this tab panel and we scream dashboard. Okay, now the first tab panel, what we need to do is we need to create a new component. So I'll create a components folder, and I'm going to create a new file, and I'll call this expense list or expense list tab.tsx. Okay, tsrafc. Okay, this is a VS Code extension, by the way. So okay, I guess that's pretty much it. I just need to export this. So I'm actually not following a lot of best practices. What I usually do is I have multiple folders for different types of components. I also have multiple folders module wise in pages. And then, we usually have an index.ts file that essentially just does, export import, right? So that our imports are cleaner wherever we are importing it. But I'm going to skip that for now. Okay. And we go to expense list tab. Great. So expense list tab is here. Now what we need to do is we need to use a box. I guess a box or a stack will also do. So we got a stack, and then, yeah, I guess then we get an H stack. We can justify it as space between. Then we have a heading. Let's say H1. Expenses.
Okay, so like we have
And then
feedback.
on
So like, can
yeah.
you go a bit slower? So.
Okay.
Flying, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you're like used
Okay,
to.
so
Cool.
yeah. I am. Okay, so what I'm doing essentially is I've created tabs, right? I'll have a heading over here called expenses. I'll have a button over here called add, simple add, and then we're going to open a pop-up, and we're going to enter some details for those expenses, and then click on save, and then we'll have a list underneath that section. So essentially what I've done is I've created a stack. So you can sort of imagine there's an edge stack over here with the heading and the button on both ends, and then there's a table underneath, right?
So edge stack
So
is
that's
basically
pretty much it.
like Flexbox in
Yeah,
horizontal
it's a
direction.
horizontal stack.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So right now, all I'm doing is just adding in markup, right? In fact, we haven't even gotten to the React part of it yet, right?
So cool. So Benjamin asks, "Hello, do you
Already
offer
included
private
farming.
training for companies? Uh, like we do you want like Frappe framework training or like special React training or something? If you do want Frappe framework training, we recently are experimenting with on-site corporate trainings. It's like no website yet, but if you are interested, email at. I will put you the email right here, and you can get in touch with me, and we can connect over there.
Okay. So all I've done is sort of made it, blue. I guess what I can do with expenses is maybe set the size to, I don't know, LG. Too small. Excel. Okay. So great. So now we have an add button and we have an expenses list. Expenses heading, right? Now, before we can add an expense, we need to sort of figure out what is an expense, right? I'm going to commit these changes for now. State added tab layout. Okay, great. So in an expense, what do you think we would have? We would have, a date, a description, possibly a category. Maybe we take up category later. The type of record it is. So maybe it's a debit or a credit. The amount and remarks, maybe. I guess that's pretty much it, or a reference number or something. So we're going to create that doctype first, right? So we go to doctype list.
So
Now
I
this
think
should be
like
pretty simple.
expense word like is debit kind of, so money is going out, and then we can have another doc
Yeah,
type like your balance or something, right? That you
yeah.
can
But
add
then
also.
if we were to sum up in just one SQL query, then it would be a problem.
Yep.
So I
Yeah,
was
then you can
I
like
was
add a field
thinking,
that just give a type and then we can track both in
yeah.
a
So
single
I'm just
document. Yeah.
going to, yeah, maybe transaction, or I don't know, or maybe just expense. Just
Yeah, yeah. Your call.
expense record, and then expense tracker. I've enabled track changes because I don't know why not.
Yeah, it
And
makes sense in
then
this kind of doc types because if someone changes the what do you say the amount, you need to know that like why, when was it changed, who changed it, audit purposes.
yeah, yeah, and maybe a description, which is mandatory. Maybe an amount that would be currency or float. But so we have to make it. I'll explain why it's non-negative, but I'll explain that in a bit. But essentially, non-negative and mandatory, and then in not in our list view, because I'll explain that. So description would be in our list view, and maybe in the list filter as well, right? Okay, and then we have type, right? So type would be a select dropdown. So it would be either a credit or a debit. So, whether you received the money or you paid someone. And so that would be mandatory as well. And then maybe we have remarks, which can be like a small text field. But now here's the thing. Why is it non-negative? Is because what I want to do is that according to the type, we have something called as formatted amount, right? Which would also be a currency. And this would be read only, right? And this can be negative. So the reason for doing that, and this should be in list view and read only. Okay. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because whenever we create a new expense record, I want to run some controller logic that essentially takes in that amount. And if it's a credit, then it's a plus. So it will just copy it into formatted amount. If it's a debit, it'll just do 0 minus that amount, and that would be saved in formatted amount. The the benefits of this is that if I run a simple SQL query for summation, I get the total expense. So I guess that's why I'm doing it. So
Yep.
any questions so far? I don't think so. In
There
naming
was a
rule, I guess
question.
we can do. Yeah.
Can we create the web app with Django and Frappe? Grace asks. I don't know why. Do we want to use two frameworks? But anything you can do in Django, you can do in Frappe, right? So,
Yeah,
and much more.
Django and Frappe would probably be fighting with each other then in that case. So
Yeah.
uh
So yesterday
yeah,
we
I
had
haven't
like
used
in.
Django.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we had a call, like Faris and me do office hours nowadays, so Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and like somebody asked which is better, Django and Frappe. So I was like, it depends, and then Faris was like, what are you saying, man? It's like Frappe is the best. And someone also replied in the chat that okay, Frappe is the best because it's like an hybrid framework, right? Low code, no code,
Yeah.
code.
Yeah. So I'll just click on save. Now, here's what actually happened behind the scenes, right? Oh, by the way, there's this very cool form builder that you guys should try, right? I just tried it today. I wasn't aware it's in the nightly build. So it's on the develop brand. So you can, create new tabs. You can move things to different columns and stuff. This is like witchcraft. So
Yep.
this is pretty
If
awesome.
Sharik is watching, I don't know. I shared it in the company group, so maybe Sharik is watching. Kudos to Sharik. He like worked hard
Yeah, this is
on this
awesome.
one.
So you can
Yep.
just see a
So
preview and then,
previously,
yeah.
if you know the hard work of like formatting the fields before this existed, like you had to literally add column breaks and section breaks in the rows itself. So this is much
Yeah.
more intuitive and yep.
So we have expense record added. So you'll see that it has added, a column break in between, and changed the order of stuff as well. So now here's the thing. I created an expense record, right? There are some files that are like, we know that those are going to be generated, right? JSON, JS, py, test py, and two initial, Python files for those two folders for our module as well as for our doctype. But then there's this expense record.ts. If if I go into my Frappe app and I go into src, you see I did not create this folder called types. This was auto created, right? And this was created by Frappe types. And what it did was that it created your interface automatically, right? With all the fields that are fillable, as well as all the fields that you get in a Frappe doc, right? Creation, name, modifier, donor, etc. And you also have transaction ID, amount, type, and see, it's actually pretty smart about it. So, for example, if it's a select drop down, it will actually enumerate the type for you. Uh, and this, I'm going to show you how we use this when we are adding a new record, right? But
Cool.
for now, I guess the doc type is done. We can go into adding a new record.
Yep.
Uh,
So
so
maybe
I'm
we
going
can
to
go to
go
list view
to.
and create one maybe. So they
Okay,
can see
okay.
that like
So you
okay,
want to.
the backend still works.
Yeah.
So yep.
Yeah. So transaction, I'm just going to put full form. Yeah. Transaction ID, let's say T001, amount, I don't know, 200, 2000.
So like one question from my
Just,
side, why didn't you use
yeah.
the like naming series to generate an ID? Maybe that would like then you
Just,
manually don't have
just
to
because,
assign transaction IDs.
yeah. I mean, we can do that. I guess we'll do that. I don't want to
Yeah,
type in my transaction
that's
ID.
fine. So
Uh,
uh,
wait, expression T dash.
awesome.
I guess. Oh, by the way, when you updated the doc type, this will update the type as well. So you see how transaction ID is gone from here.
Yeah. So it's like in sync
So
always.
yeah. So 20,000. Someone gave 20,000 bucks to me. Thank you, whoever that is. Right. Bonus or something, and then I click on save. Right. So this is working. Now here's the thing: formatted amount is 00. Right. So we need to write some controller logic so that this is a plus 20,000. How do we do that? We go to expense record.py, right? And we add a before save. So what before save will do is that every time this document is saved, it will run something. So self dot formatted amount is equal to essentially self dot amount if self dot type is equal to
Thanks, Sumit, for answering the question. So there was
credit.
a question, and how would it handle a table field with child doc type? So it's like smart. It will generate the type for table, import it in the main file, and it will assign the type there.
Yeah.
So, like, just
Yeah.
try it out. You will know, like, it handles that stuff. Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Hussein. This will work, right? Minus self dot amount, or
Else
should I
minus, yeah,
do
it
zero
should
minus
work.
self dot amount?
So you
It
might
should
have to
work.
check. Yeah, it should work. So, like,
Okay,
until
let
unless
me check
amount is
out
null.
this. So the person took away 20,000 from me. Yeah, 18,000 works. And if I add a new expense record, let's say 2,000, and it's a debit, and it says Swiggy formatted amount. Nope, formatted amount doesn't work. So we need to do 0.
So why, I don't know why
Is it
didn't
self
it
dot
work.
type? Self dot type, yeah, it is self dot type. Okay.
Yeah. Why didn't it work? Because uh, usually it
I
should.
don't know. It's not working.
No, that should have
Hmm.
worked.
I mean,
Maybe.
it does say, I don't know, what is this
Oh,
minus
okay.
thing?
So this is a Frappe bug. So it's not your fault.
It does say that.
So the currency is not properly set. That's why. So
Maybe I'll just change it to float.
yeah, use float. So if
Yeah.
like I had reported it in the past as well, so it works well in ERP next. But as soon as you are using currency field in vanilla Frappe, it's like an issue.
Yeah. So I mean, the reason why it's not working is that because we'll have to add a currency field over here and then, add it in the options over here and then it would work.
Yep.
So, I mean, it does work. That's how it actually saves it in the database. It's just not showing on the Frappe front end.
Yep.
Anyway, so I guess that's done. We go to the list view. Right. Now, here's what we'll do for the list, right? For list, we are going to call a hook called use Frappe get doc list. Now, for use Frappe get doc list,
So use Frappe
I
get
mean,
doc
I'll
list
declare.
is like an function provided by the Frappe React SDK. So it's kind of a
Yeah,
get list, but on the front end.
yeah. So I'll show you how it's extremely simple to just query something, right? So use Frappe get doc list. I just want expense records. That's it. That's pretty much it, right? And I'm going to say data is, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Yeah. Now this should come up. I don't know why it's not coming up. Hmm.
So it's
Not
like
sure why.
sometimes VS Code extension slows down when you are live streaming. I don't know why, but it
Oh,
has been
okay.
happening like for a long time. So someone like went and
Okay.
said like everything that can go wrong will go wrong. It's like Murray's law or
Okay.
something.
Okay. So all I've done is that I've fetched all the expense records, not all, 20 at a time, right? I've fetched all the expense records. I mean, we just have two, and then I'm just printing it, right? And if I go to my React front end and I click on inspect and I go to console, you see, yeah, you see how data was undefined earlier, and then it says true. True means that it's loading, right? So your loading state is handled. So now you can show a loading spinner while it's loading, right? Then we have, it says there are two records, name T001, name T002. Those two are there, and undefined is error. So now let's say if I were to, change the over here, this doctype does not exist, right? And if I go see, it will throw an error, and it will actually tell you the exception. It will give you a message and the HTTP status, so you can show the error as well. The way, I mean, normally the way that you would do this is you would probably write a use effect, and then fetch it, and then you would maintain a state for data, you would maintain a state for loading, you would maintain a state for error. That is exactly what we are doing on the backend, but we're using use_swr. So this library uses use_swr. So you can read about that library, on their documentation page. It's linked with Frappe React SDK. But essentially just one line of code, and you've got your data, loading, and error states, right? This would be approximately 6 or 7 lines of code, and it's just boilerplate junk. So we fix this. Now here's the thing. It obviously doesn't stop here, right? I can now define filters, right? And I can define fields. So fields, I need, for example, name. Name is the ID field in Frappe. Maybe the formatted amount. Maybe I also want the type. What else? Remarks, description, and remarks. Cool.
Yep,
We do
maybe we
not
can
really
show
have a
a loading
glitch.
skinner, maybe, because it's like so easy. And
Yeah,
Chakra UI already has a spinner,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We are going to say if it's loading, and I'm going to say I need a center and I need a spinner in the center. Spinner in the center. Okay, and I need to give it a height of, I don't know, 40 VH or something. So it actually shows, right? So if you go over here, okay, it's so fast, but
It also caches.
yes,
I like there is caching and steal while
yeah,
revalidate because it
yeah,
uses SWR, right? So
yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
now this will actually show this loading spinner.
yeah,
Yeah. So we have a loading spinner. I'm going to remove this because this will just drive me nuts.
yeah.
Anyway, uh, okay, we have this, and maybe for error, what you can do is you can have something called as an alert banner or something. Not an alert banner. What is it called? Let's search. Is it called an alert? Yeah, it's called an alert. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to copy this. Where's the bulb? No, I want to update all. It says alert title. Alert title, I can just say, error dot. See, okay, VS Code's not working. I don't know, maybe for live stream or something. So I think it's error dot exception, and then
Usually restart works, uh, like the restart of VS Code.
okay,
Yeah, maybe after you complete this snippet, you can restart.
yeah. And if I change the name of the doc type or something, see, it shows you an error and everything, right?
Awesome.
So I mean, you can, you can obviously, give better helpful messages, right? This is like a very stupid error message. So anyway, expense record. So now we have that, and now we need data. So if we have a data, I'm going to show it in a table, right? Okay.
So while you are
So
writing the table, like I just want to draw like people's attention to one thing, like that also happened in episode one. I was like done with the backend in 5 minutes, like doc types, and then I could
yeah,
totally focus on the front end, right? Because like I
yeah,
didn't write a single line of Python code even because I didn't need validation. I used fetch from and then done.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's the power of like Frappe. You just write in like create some doc types, and then in the front end we now have this React JS SDK. There is Frappe UI that makes it even easier to build the front end, and you can focus on like UX UI, like building better experiences.
Okay, so we are going to have a few fields. ID. Thank you, Copilot.
So what Nikhil is doing right now is like rendering a table to display the data that was fetched from the Frappe backend, the expense records.
Yeah.
So there's a question, Hussain sir. I am company in company doc type. How I rename ABBR field? Uh, uh, I don't know. It's like company is an ERP next doc type.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why do you want to rename the field? So like renaming a field is always a bad idea because like it's hardly used, like strictly used in the code. So someone might be using that field name to run some logic. If you want to use some other, then add a custom field and like write a hook to update that value once company fields update, right? So ABBR, whatever field you want. Depends on the use case, by the way. How to add custom
Okay.
filter in dashboard charts. Maybe we'll come to that. Let's see. Today the main focus is React. Yep, Doug, thanks for
Okay.
jumping in.
So all I need to do now is go data.map and then go nuts. Now, here's the thing. I will, no, I don't need to do this, but interface, expense fields, great. I have name, I have formatted amount, I have type, I have description, I have remarks, I have owner. Oh, I don't have anything else. Okay. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to typecast it, right? So I declared an interface in TypeScript, and then I said that, hey, this is what my result is going to be, right? Now, when I go to, data.map and I want to, show stuff, right? For example, I need to render a row on every, iteration, right? For every expense record. So yeah, now Copilot will do everything for me, and I just have to tap, 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 tap.
It's like so cool, no? New AI tools. Like even the Copilot chat is
Yeah,
coming up. I have signed up for beta. I haven't received any reply yet, but if that
yeah.
comes,
I think
then
I think I was accepted into the beta stuff.
ha.
So hey, where is
So
it throwing an error?
so
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
So TypeScript is definitely not working. But anyway,
maybe restart Visual Studio Code. Might
or
that might
maybe
save you
maybe I
like
just
work.
downgrade my TypeScript version. Yeah, or maybe I just downgrade my TypeScript version to, I don't know. What's the latest
4.6, I
TypeScript
think
version
4.6
for
or 7 was like stable enough.
4.6 point what?
Yeah, whatever
Oh,
Copilot
okay.
says. Yeah.
I mean, that's what Copilot. Yeah.
So Rajnish says she put wrong abbreviation while
Um,
create time a company. So what you should be able to do is like change it directly from the console in the database. That's one option. So it's not like renaming the field itself, but you're changing the value of the field. Frappe.db.set value. Search for it in the docs and like you will find it. Look for consequences, but yeah, fairly straightforward. What is Apparello? Uh, Jivitesh, I like didn't get your question. Apparello is an app or a library? or something else?
So I mean, normally we do not have to specify this, but for some reason TypeScript is, just causing problems right now on my machine. We have added a type over here, so this should be working. But for now, I'm just, so that TypeScript doesn't throw any errors or anything. So yeah, our table is done. So
Awesome.
if you really think about it, we didn't really do a lot, right? I mean, all we have done is, one line of fetching the code. So that's what Frappe React SDK does everywhere, is that there'll always be just this one line to fetch, to update documents, etc. And then you have a bunch of markup, right? Markup is what you're responsible for, because, well, that's the entire reason why you're migrating to React, right? You do not want to, you want to build custom user interfaces. So uh, anyway, we got the list. Now maybe we can work on this addition, right? And then after addition, what we'll do is that we'll integrate it with socket. Okay, so there is this hook called use disclosure. It's in Chakra UI, which is all about, is open and on
Basically a dialog box,
open.
I guess.
Yeah,
No? Yep.
yeah. And then what I want to do is, when I click on the add button, I want to open it. It's pretty much it. Okay, so that's done. But now I need a component to, add a record. So add expense record.tsx.
Cool.
tsrafc. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy stuff. I have modal. Yes. Thank you.
So we are doing just for the sake of time. You could like start from scratch, copy. Usually,
Yeah.
this is what I do as well. Like copy the example from the document site and like remove whatever you don't want and
Yeah.
start from there. That way you don't have to type everything from scratch.
Okay. Now what we need is we need to build a form, right? And what I will be using is a library called React Hook Form, right? So we have this. Oh, by the way, let's actually call this component and
Yeah, let's
expense
check
record.
even if it's like displaying or not.
Yeah. If I click on this, it opens up. Okay. So now, and I can close it, and I can close it from here as well. Okay. So we have this modal ready. Now we need to design a form, right? My modal header would be add expense, and then in my modal body, I'm going to do a bunch of stuff. I'm going to name this as save. So what do I want? I want a form. So use form from React Hook Form, and I need to define the types for my form, right? So what am I going to say? Interface form fields. Let's see. We have description, amount, type, remarks. No, we don't need anything else. Okay. And so I'm going to say that my form is of the type of form fields.
So why can't we
And
use
it's going to
the
return,
interface we defined before? Like just a question.
because that has more fields over here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, normally what I would do is that I would actually use an omit or an include in TypeScript and do that, but then I would have to explain, what an omit
Haha.
is.
Okay. For
So
technical brevity, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's fine. Yep.
Register and then handle submit. So the documentation for this, right, how it works is there in React Hook Form. You can use Formic, or you can, maintain your own states or whatever. That's up to you, really. But what we'll do now is we'll wrap it in a form. Actually, chakra.form. So on submit, and we'll say on submit.
Basically,
Yeah.
React hook form is like a library that manages the state and everything for the form for you, so you don't have to do it from scratch. It's like,
Yeah.
believe me, it's a lot of work if you start from scratch. You have to like handle errors on field required, non-required, and then you have to add validations, minimum this length,
Yeah.
maximum that length. So this library makes it really easy to like work with forms. Really popular on GitHub.
So
Check it out.
we have this now. What we'll need to do is, define a bunch of form controls, right? But for that, I'll first, put it in a stack so that
Styled
it's
properly, yeah.
spaced out. Yeah. And then I have a form control, and no, I need a form label. So description, no, I need an input. So, okay, here's what I'll do. I will go to form control, and I'm going to copy a bunch of stuff from here. Maybe I get a number input or something. Do I have a number input? I do. Okay. Uh, I guess we can use this. Or maybe just input. I'll just use input play. So all I needed to do was, type description, and I need to say required true, but I'll say description is required,
So basically,
right?
this will,
And we
whenever
also,
the some kind of error message, this like description is required, will be shown as
yeah.
some kind of error message, right?
So here's the thing, right? So I can also set a min length, right? And I can say that my min length is 5 and description should be at least 5 characters. Now, how do you show this error message? In React hook form, we have something called as form state, and then in form state, we have something called as errors, right? And so in form control, I'm going to say, hey, this is invalid if, errors dot, I don't know, description exists. And then I'm going to have a form error message, right? Which is going to be just errors dot description dot message. Cool. So if I go to add now, and I mean, if I click on save, you see how it says it's redlined and it says description is required. If I just type in 2 characters, see, description should be at least 5 characters. If I type
It's
in
like,
more, it'll go away.
like in few lines of code, you got like the state
Yeah,
handling, the red, like the error state for the form input, and so on and so forth. So looks powerful.
yeah. And now Copilot will do everything.
So the source code will be
Yeah.
available. Once Nikhil pushes it to GitHub, I will like
What else? Amount and type, right? Hold on.
put it
No.
in
I'll
the
make
description.
Copilot do
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, it's just boilerplate
I need a select.
code. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
No, cache
Oh,
added.
no, not
Okay.
caching. Perfect. So yeah, this is exactly what we do. We just have, oh, you know what? I can use a text area, right? I can use a text area. And then I don't need a min length for text area. Oh, remarks isn't required. There won't be any. Oh, this is, yeah. This is correct, but now what I can do is I can also mark these as required directly. So this will give you the red stars so that the user knows that it's required.
Yep, that comes from Chakra UI, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's go. Cool. I click on save. Now this needs to be switched up. Not sure why that is that way. Shouldn't min length, 0, drop down, etc. come from the Frappe doctype? So in that case, you would have to fetch the meta of the entire doctype yourself, and then somehow generate the form, right? It is possible. I mean, there is an API that, I mean, I think the endpoint is Frappe or get meta or something. So you can fetch the meta, data of a particular doc type and then enumerate through the fields and then show it. So that's also possible. Okay, I guess that's it. If I click on save, it asks for this. 5 characters is just too much. Let's just keep it 3. I'll have to refresh maybe. And if I click on save, see, it asks, right, credit, and then I click on save. Okay, so I guess that's working. If I go to my console, you see, it's actually printing it if I click on, save.
Oh, your screen is gone. Like, can you wait for a bit, Nikhil? Nikhil? Can you listen to me? Nikhil, can you hear me? Nikhil, can you? Somehow Nikhil's screen is gone. No, not electricity, because he's on a laptop. Let me just bring this back and we can go with screen share. Maybe he can't listen me. No. Let me just refresh. Okay, this as this. Okay, now your screen is visible. You are also visible. You can continue, Nikhil, if you can hear me. Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
Hello, Bernard.
Hey, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, it's visible. Nikhil, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, now you can. Okay, fine. Everything is fine again. Continue. It was like a minor glitch in between.
I think, yeah. So anyway, I was saying that I'm not going to go into this. Yeah, I was saying that we have this hook called use Frappe create doc, right? And it returns a function, but it also returns a bunch of other things, like for example, loading. It returns, error, right? It also returns a function to reset. So what we are going to do now is we are going to pass in the data to this function. So all we did was, instead of printing the data, we are just calling create doc, right? Expense record and the data. And since these fields are the same, the name is the same as, what's over there, it will create a record after this is done. Another thing that we need to do is we need to close the modal once this is done. So create doc actually returns a promise. So we can just say, on close, right? And that's pretty much it. For loading, what I'll do is that I'll use something called as is loading and then pass it the loading boolean so that it shows a spinner. So great. So now we go to test, we go to 2000 or 20,000, we say it's credit and we click on save. It closes it. If I refresh the page, you see it did come up over here. So pretty much one line of code and you got loading. You can also show the error over here, similar to the way that we did it on the list view. But one thing that we need to do is if I click on add, actually it is resetting the entire form. So that's cool. Otherwise, what you would have to do is that you would, reset the form, in a use effect and then, maybe do that. So we don't need to do that now. Similar to use Frappe create doc, there is use Frappe update doc, there's use Frappe delete doc, does the exact same thing, right? So yeah, I guess it's creating. Now the problem is that it's not really updating the list. So if I create a new record, it says debit 10,000, food, I click on save. Is it throwing an error? It is throwing an error. Unsupported operand types for int and str. Oh, okay. I think that's because in our Python file, we have the 0 minus self dot amount. So self dot amount is equal to, I don't know. Hey,
float.
Hussain, how do we convert it?
Float self dot amount. Yeah.
Amount. But that is only if type is, str, right?
Yep. Anyways, it works because if it is already a float, it remains a float. So not an issue.
Yeah. Now the challenge is that this list is not updating. So you have to refresh it. That's not a good user experience. There are two ways to go about it, right? One is that if I go to my list, right, we get a function called mutate, right, which is essentially what SWR returns, and then you can call mutate when your pop-up closes, and then it would essentially refresh. It would run the API call for get doc list again. That's one option. Sometimes it is required. You might have a refresh button. You want to mutate, manually. So that's one option. We will need mutate, but here's what we'll do. We'll use socket events, right? Because it might be that there are two users using the app. Someone else updates, the list, and you also want to, run an update. So there is another hook for that. It's called use Frappe doctype event listener. And
Cool.
I'm going to say expense record.
So someone was like asking for sockets. Here are sockets. Like if you are here,
expense
just
record,
put a reply in the chat. Yep.
And then it says on list update callback. So see, this is a function. What it would do in Frappe, especially in the latest version, you have to subscribe to a particular doc type, right? And then only would you get these events, right, for whenever the list is updated. Similarly, for a document, you might want to show, hey, how many people are viewing it, so you have to subscribe to that channel. So this particular function actually does that. It subscribes to the doc type room, and then it will unsubscribe when the component unmounts, right? and the hook will listen to the list update event after subscription. And if a particular document is created, modified, or deleted, it will receive the updated document. So I'm going to pass in a function. Normally, you would wrap this function in a use callback so that you do not get multiple renders. But for now, I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to say data. Now, see, TypeScript is, yeah, it is working. Okay. So if d.doctype is equal to expense record, I need to call mutate. That's it, right? And I'm just going to print the event for everyone over here. So this is it. All you have
I'm
to
guessing
do,
mutate
yeah,
basically does a refetch.
refreshes the list.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So if I go to add, hopefully this works. I just made the feature today, right? So travel, it's a debit for 1,000 rupees, and I click on save. See,
It worked.
Works.
Popped in real time.
So yeah. So that's we've covered socket. We have covered create doc. So create doc, update doc, delete doc is the same, right?
Similar
It's just going to
API.
be those one line of code. Yeah. And then we've also done use Frappe get doc list, which is to fetch a list. Then there is a similar one called use Frappe get doc to fetch one particular document. Similarly, for sockets, there are 3 types of events that we publish. One is use Frappe doctype event listener. The other is use Frappe document event listener. That is when you want to listen to changes for one particular document, not for the entire list. And then there's use Frappe event listener, which is for any custom events that you publish, right? So that pretty much covers a lot, but we also have to create a dashboard. Now, here's the thing, right? If I look at this dashboard, Frappe already has a very, very cool dashboard builder, right? Let's create one dashboard inside the Frappe interface, right? Expense dashboard. I'm going to say standard. I'm going to, yeah. And I'll just save it for now. Cool. Now I'll add a number card first because that's easy to make. I'll create a new number card. Module is. Hopefully people know what this does, how it works,
Bronze says,
and everything.
how do you like a video twice? That means a lot. Like more
Okay.
sessions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So expense tracker, what we need to do is we need to see total expenses maybe, right? Or total credits maybe, right? So we have a document type. Now the function we want is a sum, right? And we want it on the amount because we want to find the total credits, right? We want percentage stats. I'll show how we are going to use this. Let's say we get weekly stats or maybe daily stats or something. I don't know, daily stats. And then for filters, we have to add a filter of type as credit because this is a sum of all the credits, right? I'll click on save. Great. Similarly, I'll create a new card for total debits. I'll just make it really, really quick.
Nikhil, are you on Instagram?
I am.
Like someone is asking your Instagram ID.
Okay. I do not remember I do not post on Instagram, but you can connect with me. It is either this or this. So I don't remember. So maybe just,
Like even I stopped using Instagram a while back.
No, I do use Instagram for all the memes and stuff, but I do not post. So.
Yeah. Better platform to connect would be Twitter. Yep. We are like a little more active there.
So I guess this is it. If I go to show dashboard, hey, there is no dashboard chart. I never added a chart.
Oh, there was an empty. Yeah. Okay, there is why
I
why
have to add a chart?
why?
Oh, yeah, it's usually not that. But okay, anyway, I'll create a chart. I don't mind creating a chart. Time span last week. Uh, chart, no, time interval,
Yeah,
maybe
daily
yes.
expenses we can view
I need
like
a line
weekly
chart.
expenses or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I need, expense over time, or let's say balance over time, right? Because that's easier. Expense record. And then now my balance would be against the formatted amount. That's it. No filters needed. I think
Yeah,
this is
that's
good.
why what like now I get your
Time
idea of
series.
using a second field as formatted amount, because then you can like without
Yeah,
writing any code you could use it in the reports, right? Nice idea.
yeah. Okay, cool. Balance over time. I don't know why balance. Okay, it's daily because, maybe we should have added a date field, but that would have complicated stuff. So
Yeah, no
we have
issues.
total credits, we have total debits, right? Now the thing is, this dashboard is pretty cool, but I want to use it on React. Now I have two options. Either I write all the backend logic for this as well as write the markup for this, or what I can do is that I can just figure out what API this is using, right? And so make the dashboard here, use the same APIs, call the same APIs on my React front end, and just make it with Chakra UI. So this is something that we do a lot. We essentially just go to network, right? And I click on refresh, and I'm going to look at, yeah, I'm going to click on refresh. Hold on, why isn't it coming up? It should, right? Mm, okay, yeah, it did now. I'll click on refresh. Wait.
Maybe it is caching or something. Maybe disable cache.
Hmm.
Okay,
Okay, no,
refresh all
I got it.
works.
Yeah. So I didn't want to refresh all so that I could just focus on one API. But so it looks like, if I can zoom in, it looks like there's a get result, uh, API that's being called, right? It's a standard Frappe API, right? So I think that's you pass it the expense record and the type, credit, false, or whatever, and then you get it. And then there is a number card get percentage difference API. Um, and I think what this number card is doing is that in the payload, I'm just passing in the entire document, right? So essentially, all I need to do is just fetch this number card and then pass it into this particular API. So I guess that's what we'll do. Um, Dashboard list. If I go here, I just need to do this number card. Okay.
Yeah, number card is the doc type.
So here's what we'll do. We'll create a new dashboard.tsx. We'll say this. Okay, we'll say export. We'll remove all of this boilerplate. Okay, and then we'll go to our expenses and click on dashboard. Cool. I go to dashboard now. Now, first I need to fetch the number card, right? So use Frappe get doc. What is my doc type? Number card. What's the name of my number card? Total credits. Data would be, number card.
So Anubhav, do you
Okay.
want a simple tutorial on React itself or something else? If you want a React tutorial, there are like a lot of them available on the internet. Maybe that's a good place to start. So you learn the basics of Frappe framework and then learn the basics of React,
Yeah.
and then you use like come back to this stream and watch it again, and then you can combine both to leverage the power of like both worlds.
So let's see if this works, right? I hope I have added dashboard over here. Oh, it should work then. Yep.
Yep.
See, I got all of this. Cool. Now what I need to do is once my number card is loaded, I need to make a get request, right? So use Frappe. I'm only going to do it for one card, and then you guys can implement it for everything else. But I need to make a get request, right? Because I'm not really fetching a document. I am actually making an API call to a particular API. Oh,
Oh,
not this one.
the
Sorry.
other tab. Yeah.
This one. Yeah. This particular API, frappe.desk.doctype.numbercard.get result. Quite a mouthful, but okay. So
So basically, Nikhil is leveraging the
this,
existing APIs, like the whitelisted APIs.
yep,
So he didn't have to write any like report building logic in the backend. He's already using what is there and like building a custom
yeah.
UI on top of it.
Now
So
in
that's
my
a powerful
payload,
concept.
I need to send doc and I need to send filters, right? So I guess I'll send doc as number card. Right now, number card might be undefined, so that's important to know because see, we want to fetch this after this has been fetched, right? I'll just make this smaller so that you guys can see. I don't know where my cursor is. Okay, yeah. So I want to fetch this after this has been fetched, right? Now, number card will be undefined, right, to begin with because it'll fetch. So how do I do that? Now, since we're using SWR, we are essentially going to just use SWR's logic, right? So first is my API endpoint. Second is all the parameters that I want to pass, and then third, this is an optional parameter which is an SWR key. Now, if I send null to SWR key, it will not make the fetch. If I send undefined, it will, because it's an optional field. So it doesn't really make sense. But if you go into the SWR documentation, you'll understand how SWR mutates data based on the key. So what I'm going to do is that if number card, right, is there, then send it undefined, else send it null. This does not make any sense whatsoever, to be honest, right, in terms of code. But essentially all I'm doing is that I'm saying, hey, the key is null if number card is not there. If number card is there, then we don't need a key, right? You define the key yourself. I can actually pass it a string as well, right? But then I would have to manage the key myself. But Frappe React SDK manages the key. Again, this is very complicated. Please look at SWR documentation. You'll understand it.
Yep. Complicated,
Okay.
but it's like simple boilerplate code that you can
Yeah.
like reuse over and over again.
Yeah.
Yep. A
Yeah.
pattern kind
So
of.
I'm just going
Yep.
to name it data, and then I'm going to say console.log data, right? Hopefully this works. I haven't tried it before. Okay, so there is an error. Oh, missing one required positional argument filters. Yes, I sort of assumed that it would take it automatically, but okay. So filters would have to be number card dot, right? Now what was in number card? Where is number card? Yeah, total credit, sorry. And data, we would actually,
Filters JSON.
just, yeah.
Filters JSON.
Yeah, filters. So filters dot filters JSON. But now I need to do a Frappe or I don't know, a JSON dot parse, right?
So
Or
I
a JSON
assume
dot
this API is because you can also apply dynamic filters. Otherwise, it like by default should pick up from the doc itself. So this API is like the
yeah,
argument filters is required because then you can also filter like dynamically in the front end.
yeah. I guess it is sending in an array. So I guess I'll have to do a JSON dot parse.
Yep.
but then this might be undefined. So then in that case, I'll just have an empty. Okay, hopefully
Empty
this
array.
works.
Yep.
There is an argument called filters. Let's see the payload. I mean, it is doing what it's supposed to be doing, but
Is that the correct
okay,
request?
got it. No, it's not, because it's saying filters, brackets. So what I need to do is, stringify, and then maybe if I just pass it as a string, maybe that works. I don't know. Let's see. I haven't tried this, so I'm just going to refresh this. It does work. Perfect. So we can now show this data over here. There is a component called stat in Chakra UI. Makes stat number. Hey, what's this? Data.message. Oh. And then I can have a stat label maybe. See? Cool. So, I mean, now we have covered, socket, we have covered get calls, okay. So get call, get doc list, get doc. All three are going to be similar. That is, you fetch it in a hook. Create doc, update doc, delete doc, post request, put request, delete request. Right? All 6 of these are going to be similar. That is, the hook provides you with the loading and error states and also a function. And then you can call that function to make those requests. Anything else that we can cover maybe today? We've also covered socket. I know
Yeah,
it's a little
we still
advanced,
have to
right?
deploy it. Yep. So, like, my suggestion,
Yeah.
let's add a card around total credits. So it's actually like a number card, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. Wait, hold
Just
on. There
UI
is a
stuff, like
card
a
component.
UI engineer in me, like,
Yeah.
always looks for this stuff somehow.
There is a card component.
Yep.
So we will add a card.
Yeah, that's why if you are like, you can use any React library for the UI and like get up to speed once you ship the MVP, and then you can use your own design system and whatnot. And Chakra UI is like really customizable.
Yeah.
So Bronze said I
Okay,
built all
so
the
wait.
endpoints in server, handle all the state myself. Crazy, it should have saved me 2 months. Like, yeah, it is like simple. Like, many concepts in software are so simple, but like simple is what brings the most. What do you say?
Yeah.
Abstractions, right? Simple concept, but like lot of benefits and return of interest, return on investment.
Yeah. So now we have a dashboard as well. I mean, you can actually complete the dashboard, right? Because now you can, go to total credits. You can also get a total debits, and then
Yeah.
for
So
this
go ahead,
particular,
play around with it. That's what I suggest too. Like build with Hussain, but then
yeah,
go ahead and go home and build yourself too. And then
yeah.
yeah.
So anything else? I mean, we can cover file uploads. We haven't really added that in our doctype though,
So
but
let's do
we
this.
can
No, we can
file upload.
attach a receipt. Let's attach a receipt maybe.
Yeah.
What do you say,
So we'll
folks?
have to
You
go
are
to our
staying with
doctype.
us, right? For file uploads and deploying to production. Are you guys up? Like drop an emoji or something. So Nitish asks, is TypeScript necessary or we can use JavaScript? You can use JavaScript. It's like it's just
You can use,
Nikhil's
yeah, you can use
preference. Yep.
JavaScript. Yeah. So okay, invoice file. I've added this field. Now, if I go to my what is that, expense record or something, my types folder in src components pages types. Yeah. So you'll see file has been added now. Now the thing is that normally I would actually use this type declaration, right? but for now, I don't really want to go into, TypeScript full on, but our documentation will actually have, multiple best practices for this. Uh, so let's upload a file, right? I'll go to the add expense record modal. I'll create a new state for now for file. Cool. It's null. Okay, I'll need to maintain a state. And then what I'll do is thank you, Copilot, because I do not usually, write this. So Copilot has been very helpful today. Okay, now what we need to do, and what Frappe also does, is if I have a file in my form, I first upload the file, I get a URL, and then from that URL, I submit that to my document, right? So that's what we need to do as well. We need to upload a file. Now, for uploading a file, again, we have something called a use Frappe file upload,
So
right?
someone
I
asks
mean,
how Mithushan asks how possible it is to use Frappe as headless framework. So I don't know about headless framework, but headless CMS we are going to use it as a CMS in the next episode, where I'm going to build with Hussain.dev website live, where the front end will be in Astro. We'll deploy it to GitHub pages, and the backend will be Frappe. So do join me in the next episode, 31st May, next Wednesday. You can use it as a headless framework because in the user doc type you can find your API keys, and using those API keys you can use it like anywhere where you can make HTTP calls, right, Nikhil? I even have a blog on using it with
so
Node.js. Yep.
so what I want to do is when I'm uploading a file, right? I'm going to pass it the file, and then I'm going to say it's a private file, right? I'm going to pass it. Actually, you know what? First, I have to create the doc, right? And then I would have to update the doc.
Mm-hmm.
Or I mean, for now, for brevity, I'll just upload it, right? And then do a dot then, and
Cool.
but in my data, I need to do dot data, and then for it needs to be file res dot I forgot. Oh yeah, well, it's working now. File URL. I need to save the file URL. Okay. Um, what I can do better is const
So
create
Smarty India
doc. I
asks,
can make this.
uh, can a Python script be written to write JS files for React components by using this library to basic CRUD operations as boilerplates? Sure, that is what like React type does. So React types generates the type file in Python, and then saves the files. You can look at the source code how is it does that, and maybe you can generate your own boilerplate code for CRUD. Maybe that's an idea for like uh, Frappe types, like right. We can generate the CRUD
Yeah,
operations as well with proper like headless. What do you say? No UI kind of stuff. Something to think about. But yeah, until we get somewhere with it, you can do that. Check out the source code for Frappe and dash types app.
so what I've done now is that I'm submitting, and when I'm submitting, if there is a file, then I upload and then I create a document. Or let's actually make it even more cleaner, right? Const result is equal to await upload file is private. Thank you, Copilot. I need to make this async. Async. Okay, I got that result. Cool. If no, never mind. Just Just never mind. I'll just do it hard coded for now, because I mean this is not the way that I would do it, but okay. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, now here's the thing, right? File uploader hook, it also has a progress indicator as well as a loading state. We're going to use that now. Where do I add it? Maybe I've added over here for some reason. So if file is being uploaded, then I want to show a progress. Progress. And I think that's pretty much it.
Oh, it like returns
So
the
where,
real time progress.
yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know.
So
What?
Sagar says how to add custom filter in dashboard chart. Like you just saw Nikhil create one of the charts, right?
Yeah,
Do you want to
custom
add filters
filter.
in a standard chart or something? Just duplicate it, maybe. That's the easiest way to go.
Let's take. I don't know. Let's take this Airbnb booking 1 MB file. Yeah. So you saw that it uploaded the file, but obviously it was very quick. But you saw the progress bar, right? Uh,
Yep. So let's
it
show it in the
was
table maybe. So like a download button, they can click on download. If there is invoice available, they can download it. Maybe in the front end.
yeah,
The
yeah.
button would look cool.
So where is my table?
In the list, yeah.
Here's my table. So first I need to add this field called file. Then I need to add it over here. Maybe I add it as a link to Chakra UI is external. Oh. What am I doing here? And I only need to show this if there is, a file. Oh, by the way, see how it's now working? Okay. Okay, cool. I guess that's it. Oh, no, I need to add this.
Yep, the table header. Cool.
Yeah. So I can style it and everything, but if I click on this, yep.
Yep. File uploads and downloads.
Yeah.
How easy it was. Like, I really like it personally. Like, I used React for doppio bot and like used Chakra UI, and it was like so cool.
Yeah.
In Vue, I
So,
use Frappe
what
UI,
Frappe
but
React
in React, yeah.
does,
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
yeah, what Frappe React SDK does is that it takes out all the boring parts, right? I mean, in essence, Frappe also does that because you're not really writing database migration scripts, etc. So, Frappe React SDK also does the same thing. So you only have to focus on the markup on this UI, right? You need to make the UI look really, really good. And you need to make it performant. That is exactly what we are doing with Raven as well, right? So, it's the same thing, same concept.
Yep, it's also
I mean,
written
you
in
can build
React,
really,
Chakra
really
UI.
complex UI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Raven is also built using the same library. And so, they're just really, really cool things that you can build, chat interfaces, right? And then, dark mode and stuff like that. So, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So,
Let's deploy.
anything, you guys, yeah, let's deploy. So what I'll do is, oh, okay, now what did create basic features or something? I don't know. Yeah. Now for deployment, do we want to do that on Frappe Cloud?
Yeah. That's the easiest, I guess,
Okay.
because then any other method would like.
No, because then I would have to set up a repository, right? Because I mean, you cannot just upload code.
Yeah. So what we can
You'll
do
have
is
to
like
link
you
it to GitHub.
can. Yeah. So if you have GH, like, do you have GitHub CLI installed?
I don't think I do, but I can just create a new repository. That's
Yeah,
fine.
sure. Then, but GitHub
Uh,
GitHub CLI will make it easier to like just create, push, authenticate everything. Otherwise, you'd have to do it manually with Git.
uh, Not really. Uh,
Yeah,
I
your
mean,
call.
okay, let's
I
just
am used
see.
to that. Just
Yeah,
yep.
payment. Wait, hold on.
Expense
What is
tracker.
it? Expense tracker. Right, it's a public. I don't need any of this for now.
Yeah, as I said, Sagar, you need to like duplicate the standard chart and add your, what do you say, customizations. Then use that report, that chart instead in the dashboard. So now we are like pushing it to GitHub and deploying on Frappe Cloud.
Okay, cool. On Frappe Cloud, I need to go to my Frappe Cloud. I have a private bench. I'm going to select an app and I'm going to add an app. Add from GitHub.
Yep. So
See, expense tracker.
you can create benches on Frappe Cloud. So private benches are basically you can add your own app, select the
Yeah.
version, the location or the server. What do you say? Region basically. So it's in Mumbai. So that's like nearest to us. So
So
Nikhil is using
deployment
it
will take
actually.
time.
Yeah, till then we can answer questions or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
If
But I'll,
people have
I'll tell
questions.
you how it actually works. So if you just run bench build in your bench, right, what it'll do is just the same thing, right?
So Shuni Academy, please provide link for nightly version of Frappe. So nightly version is nothing but the develop branch. So when you open Frappe in GitHub, the default is like the develop branch. Self-hosting, like it is like self-hosting any other Frappe app. So check out the docs. I will link to it. So deployment docs. Just let me just grab the link to the deployment docs. You can use that to self-host.
So, I mean, this is going to take a lot of time, but
I don't think much, but
for now,
it should have like everything cached. It looks like it.
yeah,
So here's the
but it
self-hosting
will,
guide.
yeah, it will take time. So what I'll do is that I'll show you how it works over here. If I go to localhost 8009/expenses, see, it's there.
Yeah.
So this is
So this is
essentially
exactly what you will see
production
in
build.
the production. Do you want to add
Yeah,
auth?
it's on slash
Because like
expenses.
I stopped you from adding auth at the start.
Yeah, I can add auth, but I have a meeting in
Maybe
like
do it
15
like
minutes.
no. So like do it after the call and like maybe push it later,
Yeah.
like in a day or
I'll
two.
make this
That's
a
fine.
complete. Yeah, yeah. I'll make this a complete example, and then essentially, put this as an example on our documentation as well.
That would be awesome. So two birds, one stone.
Yeah.
So I usually call it like LDD, live stream driven development. Cool. So let's check if the deployment, the bench deployment is complete.
No, still going on.
Maybe refresh because. Okay.
Wow.
ERP next. Okay,
It'll
you
take
have
time. We
ERP
have a
next, so
lot of
it will take
apps.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
the thing is like you deploy the bench, you create a site and install that app and done. You don't have to do anything
Yeah,
else.
that's it.
Once you do add from GitHub, it's like done. You can also check out like frappecloud.com/docs for deployment docs. Frappecloud.com.
Do we have
/docs.
questions?
Yeah. People, do you have questions? Folks, friends, ladies and gentlemen, everything. Do you have any questions? Please pose them. I will take 5 minutes and maybe we'll end the session because it's already past 2 hours and like we didn't get a feel like it's almost 2 hours, right? It was fun.
Yeah.
By the way, thanks Nikhil for like taking the time to do this session. It's like really helpful for the community.
Oh, no worries. My pleasure.
Awesome.
Um, are we getting questions? Did I miss any question? I don't think so.
Cool. Which
I mean, I
library is
know
the
Sumit
best?
might have been.
Yeah, Sumit.
Yeah, I think Sumit might have answered a few questions that people have had. So.
Yep. Which library is the best to use to do with Vue.js, or these libraries are used? No, this libraries like ChakraUR and all are like React libraries, and then like they work with React.
Yeah.
For Vue.js, like there are similar. So one I like is like Frappe UI is there, but if you want like a third-party example as well, there is Nuxt UI, but that works with Nuxt. So that's another example if you want to try it out. There are like other libraries like. A lot of them search for like Vue.js, top Vue.js libraries for UI, top Vue.js libraries for data state management. You will find them. When's the next episode? So next episode is next Wednesday. So like you might like I'm working on the website. So like I will build the website live on 31st May, like 2:30 p.m. same time. Join me, and we'll have fun. And like Build with Hussain is now every episode. I will like once we build the website, we'll also have a registration form. We'll build it live, and then you guys can like register and then get notified on every like before every episode. Right now, I don't have like a registration setup or something. I will switch to talking. Yep. Yeah. So let us know the feedback. We are always happy to listen. I have posted mine and Nikhil's Twitter in the chat, so you can reach us out there and like go on Twitter, tell how you found the session and what more do you want to see next, and we'll make it happen. So in episode 1 I got a request for React, and like in episode 4 we have React now. Thank you guys for joining in. If you don't have any questions, we'll end the stream in about 20 seconds. Looks like we covered. So I would like recommend you to like, even if you were not able to catch the whole stream, recording will be available like after a small processing time. You can watch it like at your free hours if you're working right now. Watch it on weekends. Watch it while having lunch. That's what how I watch live streams. So cool. Nikhil, do you want to add anything? Share something? Anything?
No, I'm pretty sure there are bugs in the library, or because we're using SWR, so sometimes you'll see that things are being fetched multiple times. That's just how stale while revalidate works. So there's nothing wrong. But if you have any doubts, feel free to reach out to us at the Commit Company, or to any one of us on GitHub or Twitter, or file an issue if you find a bug in
Yeah.
any of our libraries.
It's like all the things we talked about today are open source. Raven is open source. Like the libraries are open source. Create an issue. We'll be happy to help. And that's it.
Can you read the content of the downloaded document? So, I mean, you get the URL for the document, so then you can open that document and
you can fetch
then
and
download
like
it.
Yep. So they're like just go ahead on like MDN or something, your file Stack Overflow, you'll find the docs to basically download a URL using fetch, like download a file using fetch, and you can use that URL to fetch. But then again, if it is a private file, you will have to provide auth credentials. Check that out.
Correct.
Yep. So that's it, I guess. Thanks you so much again, Nikhil, for joining. Thank you guys for joining in live, and whoever are watching the recording.
Sure.
That's great too. Like, goodbye. We'll see you next Wednesday. No, I will see you tomorrow because with Faris I have like an office session. But yeah. So hopefully Nikhil will join us again sometime. and we can
Yeah,
have like
yeah,
a more
sure.
advanced session. Yep.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Cool.